Hey everybody, my name's Joe.
I am also Joe.
Welcome back to SNES's Life. Recap episode, Jesus, what are we on? It's gotta be 20, right? Isn't that where we're at? Yeah, we're at recap episode number 20. Really bad
I guess
at
if
this.
we're wrong, then...
No, it's gotta be 20, because...
Does it?
Yeah, we've played 100 games. Divide them by 5.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
So yeah, recap number 20, huzzah! And for this recap, we finished out playing all the Super Scope games that we own, and we're gonna just get right into this nonsense here. First up is Yoshi's Safari. Yoshi's Safari is a very interesting game for the Super Scope, being in you're riding Yoshi. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they're like, man, Mario has been in every genre. He's been in like kart racing, actual racing, boxing, fighting, golfing, tennis, blah, 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 blah. They're like, I think the only thing he hasn't been in a first-person shooter, you're wrong! First-person shooter Mario game. You don't see Mario, you know why? Because he's shooting Goombas and Koopas with a gun.
You are playing as Mario as you do in every Mario game.
Look at poor Yoshi. Looks like he's cracked out. He's like, Rah!
It's really sad when you accidentally shoot him in the back of the head.
It puts like a Band-Aid on his head, and he looks back at you like, why did you shoot? And look at his one eyeball when he gets hit. He's like, look, the graphics in this game are actually pretty solid. They look pretty decent. If at all, it looks like you're shooting a Nerf gun with your pumpy little ball shooter there. It's not amazing. It is 2-player compatible. One person can steer Yoshi while the other person shoots, so I can certainly appreciate that. You get to fight the Koopa Kids again, or the Koopalings, or whatever the hell you want to call them. Except this time they're all driving like battle mechs, which is kind of interesting. It was a fun game. I enjoyed it. It's a short game, much as many of the Super Scope games turned out to be.
Yeah. But then again, I think they were short with good reason. Like,
yeah, like
how long are you gonna sit there with a massive controller on your shoulder?
Yeah, it hurts your eyeballs to do it. As an adult, it hurts me to hold it like this because it's right up on your face. Like as a little kid, you were great. You could probably hold it out here. But as an adult, you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm gonna shoot you. So very close, very painful to use for more than about an hour. So I think you're right. I think they, planned the games out correctly for what they did. We did really enjoy this game. The music was good. The sound was good. The gameplay was solid. If not a little linear, it's kind of a rail shooter. If you don't have a second player, Yoshi will just run down that path by himself without issue whatsoever.
And that is something to say. Most of the Super Scope games had 2-player.
And there's the Band-Aid on his head.
It looks super sad. Anyway, they did have, or most of them had a second player option with a controller.
Of some
For
kind.
this one, the second player controlled Yoshi.
Yeah. No. So I enjoyed Yoshi's Safari a lot. Big thumbs up for me.
I also gave this a thumbs up.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Yoshi Safari. Next up, Lamborghini American Challenge. Now this was a arcade racing style game, very much akin to Top Gear. The music was okay. It was the same track over and over and over again. The way it looked graphically, the artwork and everything looked kind of a lot like Top Gear actually, and I can appreciate it. It looked fine. The gameplay, however, was lacking. So this is an arcade racer. You are using a controller to race as you would expect, but as you can see from that car that just exploded, the second player gets to shoot the opponents with the Super Scope, which is not so much the primary game, obviously, so much as it is just kind of a bonus mode if you own the Super Scope at the time. And we thought it would be fun, but the gameplay for the racing part of the game
Just isn't
really lacked.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
And I will say you can play with only the Super Scope. Your car controls with CPU, but it's not a good CPU.
Yeah. Oh, and you could also control it with the mouse, which was also hot garbage.
It did give you the ability to control the car with the mouse, and it was really bad.
It was not good. Yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting game, and graphically speaking, it was fine. But the gameplay and the music were bad. The gun was inaccurate, and a lot of times you would pull the triggers and it wouldn't shoot. So, yeah, it just, unfortunately, it wasn't implemented well. And so that resulted in a double thumbs down from us, yeah?
Yep.
Sorry, Lamborghini America Challenge, not for us. Next up, however, is a game I know you like, Metal Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge. So this is the sequel to Battle Clash. You want to go through this one? Give it some love. I know you got love. Get a deep breath.
I had to burp for a couple seconds and then it didn't. Anyway, this game, you are playing as a duo in mech suits fighting... I don't even remember what they're called, like the Guardians or something.
Standing tanks. They're STs.
No, I'm talking about like the group
of
people.
They're like the lieutenants of the bad guy.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They're the people in charge before you beat the bad guy who is like trying to destroy the world or whatever. The story is more or less dismissible in my opinion. But the gameplay is almost exactly what Battle Clash was, improved.
Yeah.
It gave you, instead of one charging bar, it gave you 3. You had different weapons and more weapons. There were more bad guys. It was more difficult, at least in my opinion. But the biggest thing different between Battle Clash and Metal Combat is the 2-player mode. This one introduced a 2-player mode where the second player could play as any of the bad guys with the controller, and they would battle the person with the super scope.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if I remember correctly, it also had a second ST, and you could play both players playing the campaign, like alternating between the two.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about this game is watching the battle damage on the enemy robots as you knock them apart. Like their shoulder plates fall off, they'll lose limbs. You know, the sprite work on the characters and the animations are really good. The sound was really good. It was just a really fun game. Everything we're playing right in this recap is Super Scope based. So for Super Scope games, I think probably out of all the Super Scope games that we did play, Battle Clash and Metal Combat are probably the 2 best.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So this game comes out with a nice big thumbs up from me, and I do believe a thumbs up from you.
What did I just stab myself with?
No idea.
It hurt.
We'll worry about it a little bit. Next up is a game you were not present for and you did not play. This is Tin Star. So this is...
Just looking at it, I feel like I would have enjoyed it.
It's certainly very colorful, and it's a very strange take. It's a Western...
That guy kind of looks like Earthworm Jim.
It does remind me a bit of Earthworm Jim, now that you bring it up. Very... it's a Western where everybody is robots, and so you have hover carriages and hover horses, and you're flying all over the damn place, shooting everybody. Now, this is a game that was compatible with not only a controller, but you could also play it with a Super Scope or the mouse. Your brother and I did try it with all 3. We did decide that the Super Scope was easily the best way to play it because you didn't have to move the damn cursor around. That is generally the reason the Super Scope is the best, period, is because you don't have to move a damn cursor around. You just point and click, which makes it far easier to do. Now, the music was okay. The graphics were bright and pretty decent. The gameplay was all right. There were some inaccuracies here. I don't feel like the scope was as on target as it had been in other games. And some of the levels felt a little... not difficult from like a difficulty perspective, but more like it just... the way it moved just didn't feel right to me. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Now, it did get a thumbs up from both me and Louie, and I think you probably would have given a thumbs up. Because it was fun to play, and it was definitely different, and there was a large storyline to it, and there was dad humor in it. It was just kind of a fun game, but it just, I don't know, it didn't tick the boxes for me like some of the other ones did, like Metal Combat, and I mean, it's just what it was. So, Tin Star did get 2 thumbs up. It is worth playing if you have access to that Super Scope. I just didn't think it was quite as good as some of the other stuff we played. But finally, we're up to our last game here. Terminator 2, the arcade game.
Just looking at it, it looks not great.
Does it look bad? Because it is bad. Look, man. Now, this is another game where you could play with the mouse or the controller or the Super Scope. We, again, did try all 3. Again, we did decide that the Super Scope was the best way to play. However, this is 2-player simultaneous co-op.
Which is interesting.
Which is cool, because, I did grab a controller while you were Super Scoping it to death here. It really didn't... It didn't control great. It also didn't play great. The music and sound were meh at best. The graphics weren't the worst thing in the world. What it really suffered from was the ridiculous amount of enemies and crap on screen it threw at you. Which, I mean, it's a port of an arcade game that's designed to eat your quarters. So, the difficulty is high, you know? Like,
it's high on purpose.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with. There's a lot of on screen, a lot of stuff coming at you really fast. And I just didn't particularly care for it. Like, the human casualty, I think there was one point where we just literally shot all the humans off the screen immediately so we didn't have to deal with trying to shoot around them.
In my opinion, it's a game that should have stayed in the arcade.
Yes, probably.
Like, it's interesting that they tried to bring it onto a home console, but
yeah,
it's just not the game I would have chosen to try to bring onto the home console from an arcade game.
Yeah, I would like to see a port of Area 51. Eventually, we'll get to Lethal Enforcers, which is a game very much like Area 51. Had they done that, you know what? This actually might have been a better game if they'd used the Enforcer guns instead of the Super Scopes and just turned those pistols into automatics. Because the original arcade game, you had like a big Uzi that was mounted to the machine. And you're like, bah! Probably would have worked out better that way. But whatever. What are you going to do? This is the way they designed it, and this is what it is.
Look, I will say it is ridiculously difficult, especially when you get to the level where you have to... Oh, man, what's his name? The kid's name?
John Connor.
John Connor. There's a level where John Connor gets in a car, and you have to protect the car. I'm pretty sure you can shoot the car and damage it, and it's really hard to avoid it when there are dudes walking in front of the car that will hurt the car, so you have to shoot them to prevent them from hurting the car. And then there's helicopters in the air shooting missiles at the car, so you have to shoot those as well. And we never got past that level.
No. Now, look, I can't appreciate the parallax scrolling here. There are 3 different layers of background scrolling by you right here. And I can appreciate how difficult that is to do. Particularly with the amount of sprites that are on screen at once. Like, the Super Nintendo did not handle shmups well because of the amount of crap that was on screen. It's a lot of crap on screen right here.
There wasn't, no slowdown.
Yeah, it handles very smoothly, all things considered.
This boss, which we had no idea how to beat.
Yeah, it just... Unfortunately, it was just a very hard game and not super intuitive and not super fun, actually, which was disappointing as hell. Because I do like I said, Lethal Enforcers and Area 51 are great games. Some of my favorite arcade shooter games. But this one just does not hold its weight in the end. So I gave it a thumbs down.
I also gave this a thumbs down.
That's 2 thumbs down. So 2 up for Yoshi, 2 down for Lamborghini, 2 up for Metal Combat and Tin Star, and then 2 down for Terminator 2. Sorry, T2. You are terminated. Come on, you knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Anyway, that's it. That is it. We're 100 games through at this point.
So bad.
I'm broken.
It's such a bad joke.
It's my job as a dad. Yeah, so we're 100 games through. That's exciting. We are long into this process that we've been working on for the last year. And we're getting ready to go into game 101, which the first game when we get back to the streaming is going to be King of Monsters. We're very excited for that. It's a fighting game a la Godzilla. So thank you guys all very much for sticking with us for 100 shows. Well, 100 games. It's way more than 100 shows. I think we've got 170 videos on YouTube. So many, yeah. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for sticking with us through all this time. And stick with us a lot longer. So thank you very much for episode recap 20. We're all done. Have a good one.
See you guys.